Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all around the world, welcome to the Ramonepreston Show. Please, if you're coming on, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, hit that share button, and tag Lolly Dolly everybody and let them know your boy, my squad, we alive. Right here in the beautiful Buckhead community of Atlanta. This is the day that the Lord has made. We are rejoicing and we are glad in it. If you're coming on, please do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, hit that share button, tag Lolly Dolly, everybody, and let them know that the Ramonepreston Show is live. It's a beautiful day here in Buckhead. My hope and expectation is that you're having an amazing day. Again, welcome to the Ramonepreston Show. If you don't know, now you know. I'm your host, Ramonepreston. And guess what? Every Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time, we show up here on this show live to give you the game, to share information with you that we know you could use to properly start, to properly structure, and to properly scale any business, any ministry, any income stream, any wealth building dream. So it don't matter if you're a W-2 employee, if you're a 1099 contractor, or if you are a legitimate business owner. If you have dreams and desires to be financially free, if you have aspirations and ambitions to build a successful organizational enterprise, the game that I spit on the Ramonepreston Show, the information and intelligence that I share with you on this show can be used to help you in your process of becoming financially free and in the process of building a successful organizational enterprise. And for the record, everything that I share with you on this show, I live, number one, and I provide in the form of consulting, coaching, and education to my students and to clients who come into the ecosystem of my company and who expect for me to not only live what I teach and preach, but to give them what they need so that they can succeed. And in addition to that, all you got to do is Google the name Ramonepreston. You're going to see that I have clients, I have students, I have people who have success stories. They have results from what it is that I share with them. Enough about me. How you doing? How's your day going? Please put in the comments what city you're watching me from today. I appreciate all of you for supporting the show, for following us on social media, and for continuing to engage us and participate in what it is that we do on a day-to-day basis. I have an assignment, and a part of my apostolic assignment is to enlighten my people on how they can take whatever the ideas are that they have and turn them into businesses that can really set them up for success. Because guess what? The more success you have, the more money you have, the more resources you have, the bigger and more expansive your business becomes, the more you're going to do for people. The bigger of a blessing you're going to be for people. So today, I want to take some time to just answer some common questions that I get. Listen, I get questions almost every day. We get questions on YouTube. We get questions on Instagram. People DM me and inbox me and email me. People text us questions. We always get people who ask questions about the holding company because I think I'm one of the few people on the internet, on the whole World Wide Web. I'm probably one of the few people that talk as much as I do about the holding company. And again, proof is in the pudding. If you just go to Google and you type in how to start a holding company, or you go to YouTube and type in how to start a holding company or holding company, most likely within the first 3, 4, 5 videos, I'm gonna pop up. I'm gonna show up because I have a lot of information that I share about the holding company, you know, and I think I can consider myself pretty good when it comes to understanding the concept of a holding company, the principles and the practices of a holding company. And so what I like to do is I like to at least drop in 1 or 2 days through the week, especially when we're talking about holding companies, and I like to answer some questions that I get. I get a lot of questions from people about the holding company. Now, some of these questions I can't really answer because I'm not a lawyer or I'm not a tax expert. So some of the questions are just questions that you got to ask a lawyer, you got to ask a tax expert. And here's the truth. All the stuff that I be talking about, whether it's about holding companies, tax strategies, whether it's about financial literacy, all this stuff is just coming from an entrepreneur who has had to figure out a lot of these things along the way. So I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a tax expert. I'm not one of the professionals. You still need those people. I'll be the first one to tell you. A lot of the stuff that I talk about and that I do as an entrepreneur, I'm bold and confident to talk about it and to do what I do because I have lawyers and tax strategists and CPAs and professionals and experts that I pay to help me along the way. So don't get it twisted. Just because it sounds good on the internet, and that includes coming from me, don't mean it don't need to be vetted by a professional. Okay, so that's just like a disclaimer for the record. But I try to answer the questions as best as I can, and whatever the value is that I can provide, I'll provide for you. So I want to answer some questions on the holding company. If you have a question that you want to ask, all you got to do is put it in the comments. So I check the chat while I'm live, but if I miss something that you put in the chat, one of my team members who are they always lurking. They always looking in the comments. So one of my team members will let me know if you put a question in the chat that I miss. So again, I appreciate all of you for joining the show today. Thank all of you for taking the time to really invest in yourself. You're investing in yourself. So even though you're listening to me, you're watching me, you're getting information, but you're really investing in yourself. And we as a people, we need to start prioritizing, educating ourselves on things that can help not only change the trajectory of the quality of our lives, but also it can change the trajectory of the quality of the lives of the people that we lead. If you got children, I got grandchildren. I got 2 biological kids. I got 3 biological grandkids. I have spiritual sons and daughters, people who look to me as an apostle and as a prophetic leader, as a tribal leader of my tribe. And I have a responsibility to stay educated. I have a responsibility to continue to grow as a leader, not just in ministry. I've been in ministry for over 2 decades. I've been a full-time entrepreneur for over 2 decades. My wife and I, we do both on a day-to-day basis. But I can't just grow in the Bible. I can't just grow in my theology. I can't just grow in my church going or in my community service. I got to grow as a person. I got to grow as a business owner. I got to grow financially. So this information that I share with you about the holding company, about creative tax strategies, whatever the things are that I'm sharing with you, please understand you're doing yourself a favor when you listen to the right information and you put it to practice. So again, if you have any questions, especially if it's regarding a holding company, I want you to put the questions in the comments because I have questions here that I'm about to answer. And if you have participated in any of my courses, you will know that even in my holding company course, I probably got about 50 or 60 questions that I answer. A lot of the questions that people ask me, I have answers for. And anytime I get new questions, I'll do new videos. I'll share them on the show like I am today, and I'll add them to my holding company course. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the questions that I have. I'm already getting some questions in the comments, so appreciate all of you that are watching live. Thank you for joining the Ramonepreston Show today. Again, we're talking about common questions about or concerning the holding company. It's a big topic, at least for me and for the people that are in my community. Everybody that I work with as a coach, as a consultant, or even if I'm just educating people and they're joining my Millionaire Blueprint, I'm telling everybody, hey, it don't matter what type of business you got. I don't care what kind of product and service you're selling. You need to make sure that you structure your business enterprise with a holding company, a parent company, and then you have those subsidiaries, which are operating entities, because there are a lot of things you can do to parlay, to leverage, so that you can flex that thing and build something successful and sustainable. So again, let's see if I can answer some of these questions. Let's see here. CB Enterprises, should I place my holding company under my nonprofit company or keep them separated? I definitely wouldn't put my holding company under my nonprofit. I would definitely keep them separated. So I have a nonprofit 501c3, so I could speak to it. I have a nonprofit 501c3, and I have a for-profit holding company. I have divisions under my holding company. I have for-profit subsidiaries. Okay, so I have both. And I would not put my for-profit company under my nonprofit company. Number one, because it's a nonprofit. It's not for profit. And so I'm not a lawyer, but I know enough to know that whatever it is that you're doing under your nonprofit, it's not like you can't make money in a nonprofit. Nonprofits make money. Goodwill is a nonprofit. Salvation Army is a nonprofit. United Way is a nonprofit. The American Cancer Society is a nonprofit. So these are nonprofit organizations. They make money, but the money that they're making is typically for their not-for-profit purpose, if you understand that, okay? So I wouldn't put my holding company under my nonprofit. I would keep them separate, even though if there's some type of relationship, entity to entity that you have, then you need to just make sure that your board approves that entity to entity relationship. You get documentation for that relationship, and you make sure that you vet it. Most likely you may need to vet it with an attorney or somebody who can ensure that whatever the relationship is, there's no conflict of interest because you own that nonprofit and you own that for-profit. But in most cases, that's how I would keep it separate. I wouldn't put my holding company under my nonprofit. Another reason why I would not put my holding company under my nonprofit, and I'm not going to get too deep into it because there are some things I'm still validating with this, but another reason that why I wouldn't do it is because I really don't want my nonprofit to accumulate a whole lot of assets that are just like imprisoned to that nonprofit. I have a different perspective when it comes to nonprofits. I have a different philosophy, and I have a different belief system when it comes to nonprofits. So even though we do have a nonprofit 501c3, in a perfect world, I would like for my nonprofit to not be tied up owning a whole lot of assets that can't benefit the greater good of the community or can't benefit the people who are actually a part of my nonprofit. I would like for those businesses or those assets or pieces of real estate, I would like for those things to be a part of for-profit entities so that we can generate revenue, so that we can leverage those assets, and so that we can actually profit. Hey, we don't mind paying taxes off of money that we net in our profits, but we want to be able to just move those assets around in a way that we're not restricted to a nonprofit. So it's just my personal beliefs. I've seen some people do what I'm talking about doing on certain levels, meaning that I've seen people who have nonprofits that have for-profit entities and they have like CDCs. You know, like 20-something years ago when the National Center for Faith-Based Initiatives was created, I think it was created in 2000 during the Bush administration, but it was this initiative that they created to provide churches that were doing community work with grants and funding to actually facilitate what they wanted to do, especially if they were limited in what they could do in their churches. And a lot of churches at that time, this was 20-something odd years ago. I don't know how big it is today because I'm really not that deep into the nonprofit sector anymore. But back then, a lot of churches that existed, they created CDCs. They created community development corporations, and they had for-profit businesses. So it was like this tri-corporate matrix that existed, where you had a church, and you had people in the church. You had CDCs, which were nonprofit entities separate from the church, because these were the entities that were getting grant money to provide certain services to people in the community, particularly people who went to the church, right? And then you had for-profit companies that were actually providing the services or delivering the services. So for example, if it's a nonprofit CDC that had a certain initiative to train or to educate or to show people how to start businesses or become entrepreneurs, well, a lot of these people were in the church. So they would use the resources of the CDC, but how were these people being trained? They were being trained by the for-profit businesses. So it was like this whole ecosystem, which for me, that's what I like to see when it comes to nonprofit organizations. CB Enterprises says, that's crazy how much you love what you do. It doesn't go unnoticed or unappreciated regardless of the day. Peace. Hey man, I appreciate you so much, but that was a good question, because that was actually one of the questions I had down. One of the questions I had written down here, it was like my second question. The second question was, can a holding company own a nonprofit? So I know nonprofits that own holding companies. I know nonprofits that own businesses, that hire people to run those businesses, and it is to promote their non-profit or their not-for-profit purposes. Okay, and so, but I would not want my non-profit to own my for-profit. I would not want my non-profit to own my for-profit, and I would not want my for-profit to own my non-profit. Like I want to separate the two for whatever the reasons are that I have, especially because I am a preacher, I'm a minister, I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur. I separate both of mine, and if there's any coexisting relationship that's needed, it may happen on an entity-to-entity level, but I just wouldn't want all of them to be meshed together, because there are certain things that I want to do as a for-profit entrepreneur, as a business owner, that I might be restricted to do if it was all subjected to my 501c3 status as a nonprofit organization. So that's just my personal perspective. All right, here's another question. And again, if you have any questions, just put the questions in the comments. I see somebody put a question in the comment, but I don't think you put all the information in it. You have, what's the difference between a holding company NA, and that it ends right there. So if you can finish what that question is, I'll be more than happy to answer it. Okay, so here's another question I want to answer regarding holding companies. Why aren't more people, and these are real questions that I get. I'm not making up these questions. I know sometimes it's hard to believe when people are like on lives and on social media giving you all this stuff. Like, I don't make this stuff up. These are questions people ask me. Like, literally, all you got to do is just go to my YouTube page. That's one page you could go to. You can go to my YouTube page and you can start looking at my holding company videos and look at the number of questions that are under these videos in the comments. A lot of these questions are ridiculous. Of course, you're going to have trolls and people just, spamming me, but there are a lot of questions under these videos in the comments, and my team and I, we pull a lot of those questions, as many as we can catch and find, and we answer those questions, number one, on the show when we do drop in Q&A days like today, and then we add a lot of these answers in video form to our holding company course, okay? So the question is, why aren't more people using the holding company as a business strategy? Let me tell you something. There are a lot of reasons why most more people ain't using the holding company as a business strategy. One reason, and I guess I could just kind of flex a little bit on the board, all of you that are watching from IG, I'm trying to give y'all some love. Like, I just totally forget about y'all all the time. So if for some reason the phone goes out If for some reason it drops on IG, all you got to do is go over to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and we're streaming live. So why aren't more people using the holding company as a business strategy? I'm going to say this, and I say this respectfully. One of the main reasons is because of ignorance. And I say it respectfully. I'm not trying to throw shade on nobody. I say it respectfully. One of the reasons why is ignorance. And if you don't think people are ignorant or not educated about holding companies, all you have to do is just talk to people about it. Like, I have a lot of students that I've worked with in my Millionaire Blueprint who take our courses, who learn how to start and structure these types of entities. I have clients that I work with in my coaching program or consulting services that I've provided for clients. And I have a whole lot of people who have even gone to like CPAs and accountants and people who do, taxes, that have told them, number one, you don't need this. I don't know why you're doing this. But they're just uninformed, or maybe they just have an opinion. Maybe they just don't feel like it's important. Well, that's them. To each its own. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. For me and for a lot of the people that I have been connected to in the real estate industry, in the business world, who are successful. I'm not talking about people who are just mom and popping it, they shade treeing it, and they don't see no value in nothing outside of what they're doing. A lot of people, they understand the value of having the right entity structure set up. As a matter of fact, just look at the proof in the pudding. All you need to do is Google how many companies are actually holding companies. Just Google this. Don't just listen to somebody like me on the internet. Google and see how many companies are actually holding companies. So there are many companies today that you do business with, very well-known household name companies that are categorically holding companies. They are holding companies. And a lot of these companies, they may have not started out as holding companies, but at some point they became holding companies because they might have reorganized their infrastructure. They went public. A lot of different things happen, but that's for the big companies. The fact of the matter is, a lot of these major players in the business world are holding companies, okay? But you ain't big like them. Most people in our community, we scrapping for every dollar. We probably ain't got no credit. We ain't got no credibility. We ain't got no networks. We ain't got no relationships with people. We ain't got a lot of funding. So everything that you can do when you're just getting started to leverage the asset of your business and the asset of your intellectual property and your products and services and whatever it is that you're doing, you need to deploy all that, because you don't always have a lot of resources. This is how I figured out how to get to where I am in business, because I didn't have a lot of resources. When I started my entrepreneurial journey 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, I ain't have no credit. I ain't have a pot to put it in or when to throw it out. Like, I ain't have nothing. And I didn't know all the stuff I know now. All I had was just this grit and this grind. And I really got that from just running the streets in my teenage years. Being a street hustler, a dope dealer, an addict, you just learn how to survive. You learn how to scrap it out. But once I got saved and got clean, I realized real quick, number one, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't want to be tied up to somebody else's system that obviously wasn't working for me, okay? I didn't have a formal education, so I had to figure this thing out. But I was scrapping as an entrepreneur. The only thing I had was that grit and that grind to wake up every day, go out there and figure out how I can make a hot $100 just to pay the bills. But once I started learning about business, especially because my wife and I, when we got married 20 years ago, we were full-time in business, we were full-time in ministry, and we made a commitment that we're going to figure this thing out. And so once we started moving deeper and deeper into real estate, because that was like our bread and butter, we realized that a lot of these big players in real estate, they were actually people who had holding companies. They had infrastructures like what I'm talking about. and they used it to really leverage a lot of financing, a lot of loans and lending institutions. Like, they were parlaying that thing. And we saw it and we realized that, wow, we have to make that transition. So again, the question is, why aren't more people using the holding company as a business strategy? Ignorance. And to some extent, it's pride. It's pride. Because right now, if you have a business and you trying to sell a product or provide a service through a business, you might not even be clear about that being an operating business as opposed to a holding company. You might not even understand the difference between the two. You might not even understand how to leverage those two different entities. Maybe you own 2 or 3 LLCs, but all this comes from a lack of knowledge, a lack of education, not understanding. So this is one of the reasons why most entrepreneurs, they end up with like 8 different LLCs, and they own all 8 of the LLCs because they don't understand concepts like the holding company. So you got to educate yourself about this stuff. You got to train and develop and build the muscle to learn how to really parlay this thing. And if all you thinking about is, man, here comes somebody else trying to sell me something, that's the problem. You always thinking somebody's trying to get over on you. Maybe somebody's trying to help you too. Like, at some point, you got to get past that. I had to get to a point that to the point that I realized that everybody ain't trying to get over on me. And even if they are trying to get over on me, is it something they know that I need to know to get further up that road? So I need to play the game because I need to get out of this rigged system that I'm in. And I felt that way over 20 years ago. I was like, man, I'm in this rigged system that's got me caught up, trying to work 2, 3 jobs, still ain't making enough money, trying to do something on the side with a little hustle. It ain't making me enough money. I'm just tired. I'm falling asleep throughout the day. I'm mad. I'm eerie. I'm agitated because I don't know enough to do what I need to do to really succeed. Okay? Here's another question. Who's responsible for signing documents for subsidiaries? So, for example, if you have a holding company and your holding company owns another LLC or 2 LLCs or 3 LLCs, let's just assume you do have a holding company set up and that company owns other companies. The question is, who's responsible for signing the documents for those subsidiaries? Most of the times it's going to be you. Your company ain't going to go to the bank and sign for your subsidiary. Or if you're trying to do business through your subsidiary, your holding company ain't going to walk in there on your behalf. And I'm not trying to make it sound like, oh, duh. I'm just giving you like a real answer that you're going to be responsible, okay? Because you are the one that owns the holding company, okay? The holding company owns the subsidiary or the operating company. So there's no human being that is designated as a responsible party unless you draft the operating agreement and say this company and you that own this company won't be the responsible party. Somebody else will be if you have another manager on that company. But most of the times it's going to be you. You own the holding company. Your holding company owns the subsidiary. And you're the responsible party because even with the EIN, even with the articles of organization that you obtain to start that subsidiary, you're still going to have a human who's a responsible party. And if you're doing it, it's going to be you. Alicia Hughes, she says it's like a race. It is. It is. And this is one of the things I'm trying to show people that I talk to on a regular basis. You don't have the backing, the financial backing, the credit backing. You don't have the people backing, the networks and relationship backing. Most of the times when you starting out as a solopreneur, you don't have the backing, the resources to flex the way certain companies can flex. All right. So what you have to do is make sure that whatever the things that you can do when you just get started, you do them correctly. And you make sure that they can be the most effective things that you do so that you can get the biggest bang for your buck, okay? It's just as simple as that. And for me, I've started a lot of different entities. I mean, I probably started hundreds of entities because I've helped a lot of people put entities together. Non-profits, for-profits, LLCs, and what have you. But for myself, the few entities that I did start, I didn't always start them the right way. And I always had to come back around and correct something that I didn't do correct the first time. And I'm trying to get you to prevent that. All right. So again, the responsible party for signing documents on the subsidiary level is typically the owner of the holding company, which in this case should be you. All right. Here's another question. Can I transfer my existing LLC to a new holding company? Yeah. Why not? If you have an existing LLC, because this is a lot of people. A lot of people have existing LLCs. You may have started this LLC 2 years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago. You got a credit card under this name. Maybe you got a couple contracts that you did business with. Most of the times you don't want to dissolve this. You want to hold on to it. You got length of history. You got some credibility. You want to hold on to it, but then you start learning new information and you're like, yeah, but I want a holding company. All right, well, you start your new holding company, LLC, and you just transfer the ownership from you to the holding company. All right? And there are different ways that you can do it. Of course, if you don't know enough about it, just pay a lawyer to do it for you. Like, that's why they got lawyers. That's why they got tax advisors and CPAs. They got these people for that. And I know we're in a do-it-yourself world. Here's what my take is about the do-it-yourself stuff. I like to teach people how to do the things that I've done, but I like to teach people how to do the things that I've done. But I also like to explain to people when I'm teaching them that don't be afraid to go spend a couple $100s for a professional to just vet it. For somebody who does this for a living to just vet it. Like the LLCs that I've put together for myself, I paid like experts to do it. I paid CPAs, I've talked to attorneys, I've worked with them to draft certain paperwork. A lot of the stuff that I'm doing, I paid people initially to do it. And then once I understood it and figured it out, it just made it easier for me to do it myself. But I still had to pay somebody initially. So again, if you're just not comfortable doing that, then you find somebody who knows what they're doing to do it. But a lot of times you can make that transition, that transfer by yourself. You could take the existing LLC and transfer the ownership to the holding company and away from you. A lot of that is going to be, sometimes you could do it on the Secretary of State level. You definitely could do it in your operating agreement, which is where the meat of how that business runs is going to be found anyway. So if you have an operating agreement and you are the owner, the member, the manager of that existing LLC, and you draft a new operating agreement and you make the holding company the owner, that's where you're going to find that language inside of that operating agreement. Okay, so that's another question. Can I transfer my existing LLC to my holding company? Absolutely. Next question. Should I use my legal name as the title of my holding company? Should you use your legal name as the title of your holding company? I do. My legal name is used as the title of my holding company. I'm going to say it this way. You should, if you want to build a brand and you're not concerned with this whole thing about anonymity, because that's what a lot of people are looking for. But I think a lot of small business owners, they approach getting a holding company from the wrong perspective. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. Sometimes not having anonymity, meaning that sometimes when you are publicly known, it helps you build your brand. So when you are pursuing anonymity, you know, you want a Wyoming LLC, you want a Nevada or a Delaware LLC because you want charging order protection. You don't want to be known. That strategy doesn't always work for the average small business owner. So just because you have learned information about anonymity, about charging order protection, about the significance of having a holding company in Wyoming, it doesn't always mean that it's going to ultimately protect you, number one, because it ain't. There are lawyers that will still sue you. Like, it don't matter where your entity is. You can have an entity in Wyoming. You can have another entity that owns that entity in Delaware. You can have another entity that owns that entity that owns that entity in Nevada. And if there's questionable practices in your business, you're going to get sued. If there ain't questionable practices in your business, but there are enough lawyers who find loopholes to sue you, they going to sue you. So all that ultimate protection goes out the window, number one. And just talk to a lawyer about that, and they'll tell you that. Number one, that goes out the window. Number two, if you're a small business owner and you're trying to build a brand and you're not like a real estate investor, like most of the people that I see who have like anonymous businesses, they have anonymity. They don't want nobody to know anything about them, anything about where they at, who owns what. Most of the time, it's people who are in real estate investing because they don't want to be harassed by tenants, and their business is really tied to the assets of that real estate. Well, that ain't the average business owner. The average business owner has to build rapport with the market. The average business owner has to promote and advertise and create messages and find the perfect client profile. The average business owner has to get somebody to trust them enough to make an exchange with them. The average business owner is not a real estate investor who don't want to be bothered by tenants. So a lot of times when you get this information about holding companies and anonymity and charging orders, you got to be thinking about your brand. Like, how am I going to build a brand and I don't even want nobody to know me? It is so ridiculous for so many entrepreneurs to do that, and they mess up. I've had clients who have come to me so prideful. Oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it. Okay, do it then, bro. Do it, dog. Do it, boo. Do it. And then like 6 months later, man, I ain't making no money. I can't get nobody. Can't nobody find you. Of course you ain't making no doggone money. Can't nobody even Google to figure out, like, who are you? Because you wanted anonymity. Well, you keep your anonymity with no money. But I want money. I want to make money for my business. I want to build a brand. I want to promote. I want to market and advertise. I want to, because if I build a big enough brand and make enough money, I can handle any potential liability or lawsuits or trolling or people that come against me. So you got to think about that stuff. So again, the question is, should I use my legal name as the title of my holding company? I'm going to use mine. My legal name is Ramonepreston. And so my company name is Ramonepreston. My university name is Ramonepreston. I got 3 or 4 other businesses that are Ramonepreston. My logo is RP. All of these are trademarked. All of these are names and logos and slogans and images that I'm using to build a brand because I want to build a successful business. I can't afford to be unknown. If I was unknown, you might not be listening to me right now. So make sure that you ain't getting information and you doing what's backwards when it comes to building a successful business, okay? Another question on the chat. What's the difference between a holding company and a trust? Well, a trust is not necessarily like a legal entity like a LLC. A trust is something private between you and your family or whoever you add to that particular trust. So a trust is definitely more secure than a holding company because the trust is not like your LLC, but your trust can own your LLC. So again, if a trust is something that you want to pursue, I would say that you need to find an attorney to do that and to make sure that it's the right thing to do. Because I've known a lot of people who they've taken their LLCs, they moved it under a trust, and their LLCs may own like equipment or vehicles or accounts or assets, real estate, and then when they come back around to try to maybe want to refinance something or sell something, now they got to go through all this legal rigmarole because it's tied to a trust. So you just want to make sure if you do a trust that you find an attorney who knows about it and who could do it the right way. So there are a lot of differences though between a trust and a holding company, because again, a trust is not really out there doing business like a LLC holding company is, but a trust is definitely going to be more private. It ain't going to be public information, and you definitely want to have that. All right. So let's see what the next question is. Should my holding company or my subsidiary pursue business funding? Should your holding company, if you have a holding company and you have like an operating LLC or multiple operating LLCs under your holding company, should the holding company pursue business funding and credit cards and lines of credit and working capital, or should the subsidiary or subsidiaries pursue? Here's what I'm gonna tell you. All of them should pursue. Like, it don't matter. If you have the right business plan, let me contextualize this answer. If you have the right business plan and you know where you want to go in your business and you've done the math and you have a minimum viable product or service to sell, you know how to get out there and market and sell and make money. If you are able to get funding for your holding company, for yourself, for your subsidiaries, all at the same time to further expand that business, then do so. The reason why I object to a lot of people pursuing funding is because in today's world, most of these entrepreneurs, I guess I should say that respectfully, in today's world, these so-called entrepreneurs, all they want to do is get a loan. And I'm thinking, make a sale. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you see how like crazy that sounds? All you pursuing is getting a loan instead of pursuing marketing to make a sale. You got it backwards. See, and I say that from firsthand experience because there was a time I used to get credit cards, I used to get loans, I used to get funding, lines of credit. I done had all that crap. And I'm telling you something. What I didn't have when I was getting all that was enough sales. So because I wasn't making enough sales, I had to keep trying to get loans. But then I reached a point to where I still wasn't getting enough sales, and then I had to pay payments on the loans because most of the times I was getting the loans not to put it all back in my business, but to actually pay bills so that I can be a full-time entrepreneur. And I found myself in a mess and in a whole lot of debt, paying a lot of money that I didn't have to pay. And it was stressful, and I never want to go back to that again, even though I'm still going to use debt as leverage when I can. But all I'm saying to you is, if you have a plan for selling your products and services through your business, you've done the math, you've done your due diligence, you're disciplined, you ain't just trying to get a $10,000 credit card to go splurge, or you're not trying to go get a $25,000 loan, you know, to just pay your own personal bills and not really invest in your business, and you don't really know what you want to do with your business anyway because you ain't even tried to sell something in your business. You putting yourself in a situation where you're gonna be stressed out. So again, if you are in that position and you need to pursue funding, I'm telling you, try all of it. If you know you can do it. If you got a holding company, pursue funding for it. If you got subsidiaries, pursue funding for it. If you have to personally guarantee it and get loans yourself and funding for yourself to put in your business, do it. If you have those financial disciplines and you have stuff in order, because I've done it. I betted on myself. I took risks, and some of those risks and bets that I made help me get to where I am. So I'm not going to say don't do it. I'm just going to say If you can't go out there and take one product and one service today and go make a sale, stop trying to use this lame doggone excuse about, oh, I need a loan. No, you don't. You need a sale. There's a difference. Okay, in the chat, should I make another LLC for your DEMAT account, or should I create on behalf of my holding company? Should I make another LLC for DEMAT account to invest in stock market only, or should I create a account on behalf of my holding company? I'm not sure what the DEMAT account is. I don't know that language, but from a general perspective, if you're investing in stocks or in the stock market, I don't see why you can't invest through your holding company. If you have a company, it's no different than if you're going to invest in a piece of real estate or in an LLC. So I don't know if there's some legal nuances that we're just not clear on in terms of your holding company investing in the stocks of another company. But Berkshire Hathaway is a holding company. Even though they buy a whole lot of shares of company, like equity stakes, they buy big chunks of it. But like generally speaking, I would assume it's the same. If you could buy stocks and you're, instead of buying them yourself, you buy them through your holding company owns those shares. I don't see where something is wrong with that, because that's one of the purposes of your holding company, to own shares or ownership interests in other businesses. So I don't know. Now, if it was real estate, I would say to create a separate entity. If it was real estate, because I wouldn't want my holding company to own a piece of real estate necessarily. I would want my holding company to own the LLC that owns the piece of real estate. So in the case of real estate, I would separate that LLC. Or in the case of it being some business activity that is volatile and risky, and it can compromise the integrity of my other assets, I would separate it. But the asset of a piece of paper, stock, or a digital unit through a stock, I don't see where it would demand for you to have a separate LLC for that, unless it's just some nuance that I don't know and don't see. But I know people, I have clients that have holding companies and they're into stocks. I'm not into it, but they are, and they own stocks or shares of companies through their holding company. It's no different than owning ownership interests of a LLC. So I hope I answered that question for you. All right, I got one more question before I go. I hope you all have been getting some value from today's show, which, by the way, if you haven't taken me up on my offer, or if you haven't seen my offer this week, we extended an offer to all of you in our community for you to get a VIP ticket to my upcoming holding company workshop. So 2 weeks from now, it's on Saturday, April the 22nd from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Virtual or in person. You can attend virtual or in person, however you want to attend. It's a one-day workshop. I'm doing a deep dive on all things holding companies. Like literally, you could come to that one workshop and learn all the ins and outs of how to start and structure a holding company, how to file and form your paperwork, the language you need to use. We show you how to build your divisions and your subsidiaries. We're going to be doing a deep dive into the corporate systems that you need to have integrated into your holding company and your divisions and subsidiaries. We're going to also be talking about how to accumulate assets under your holding company so that you can increase your net worth. So we are extending a VIP ticket, one VIP ticket to my upcoming holding company workshop, and I'm giving you access to my entire holding company course and startup kit. So on my online university, I have a program called the Millionaire Blueprint, and inside of that Millionaire Blueprint program is an entire training course all about holding companies. You learn everything and some about holding companies. I promise if you just took that one course alone, you would know more about holding companies than some CPAs do. I promise you would. because I know some CPAs who don't know half of what we talking about. And we've had clients that have talked to them that have had more knowledge about holding companies than they do. So we're extending an offer. It's a special offer that I'm only extending through my show because you can't go to my website and find it. It's one VIP ticket to my holding company workshop, and you get access to my entire holding company course plus my startup kit. Inside of my startup kit, I have walkthrough video tutorials to show you what that process looks like for starting and structuring a holding company. We have all the documents and forms. We have operating agreements, lease agreements, asset transfer agreements, consulting agreements. We have all that inside of that startup kit. So I'm giving you one ticket to my upcoming workshop, and I'm gonna give you access to my whole entire holding company course and startup kit. This is why it's such a special offer. I'm giving it to you for $97. That's it, just 97 bucks. All you have to do is text the word VIP to 678-276-8253. For $97, I'm giving you one VIP ticket to a one-day workshop strictly on holding companies. And I'm giving you access to my holding company course and startup kit. So if you've been looking for more information about the holding company and you want to learn all the ins and outs about holding companies, and you don't really have a whole lot of time, like a couple years to learn, but you want to just deep dive and brain dump and binge on a course and a one-day workshop, I promise you, this offer alone will teach you everything you need to know about holding companies, period. So we're offering it for $97. All you have to do is text the word VIP to 678-276-8253. This offer is not on my website. If you go to Ramonepreston.com or if you go to my university platform, you will see that my holding company course plus startup kit is currently $497, and my one-day holding company workshop on my events page is listed at $497. So these are two $497 programs. That's $994, almost $1,000. We're giving you access to both of them for $97. So that's a VIP ticket, and that's access to my holding company course and startup kit. But you have to text the word VIP to 678-276-8253. So when you text that word to this number, we're going to reach back out to you. We'll just take a few minutes to make sure that we answer any questions that you have. If you need to know more information about the workshop or the course, we can share that with you. We can give you a link if you need a link to go preview it on our website so that you can see everything that you're going to learn. And upon you making that decision to take us up on this offer, we will send you an invoice for secure payment of the $97. We will immediately onboard you to the holding company course. You'll get instant access to it, and we'll RSVP you, and you'll get an email confirmation for both of those, the course enrollment and the VIP ticket for the workshop. Question, should I make another LLC? Oh, that's the same question, I'm sorry. Looks like that question came up 3 times. So I hope I answered all your questions. Again, if you do have other questions that we haven't answered, feel free to reach out to us here at this number. We're here at the office. Me and my squad, we ready to rock and roll. We want to help some people start and structure and scale their businesses and using the holding company to make that happen. So we love and appreciate all of you. Thank you for joining the show today. Of course, we'll be back here tomorrow, same place, same time, 12 o'clock noon, right here on the Ramone